Wisdom requires to bring the mind and the heart together. It requires emotional intelligence. It requires empathy. And for that, we need stories and the art of storytelling.
If you read a variety of novels by a variety of different people, you get a much deeper understanding of how the world works.
Not only are we the biggest thing affecting the planet, but we've suddenly reached a point where if we don't wake up to that and respond accordingly, it's going to come back and bite us really, really hard. And that moment is now.
So I think if you can just reach out to somebody, to that isolated person, whether it's in your office or within your community, you could really change someone's life and maybe improve your own.
The atmosphere here is always of people who love books, longing to see a book, an event, an author that they love, and it's just palpable, it's wonderful.
I've been to book festivals over the world. This is the best. This is the gold standard for book festivals.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to present to you our nonfiction picture book called Escape, One Day We Had to Run, released by Lantana Publishing. I'm Hua.
And I'm Ming. We're identical twins and co-authors of this book. We worked with our super talented friend, Carmen Vela, who is the illustrator for Escape.
We were inspired to write this book about historic episodes of Escape by our nanny, Aping Jia, who literally swam from the southern tip of China to British Hong Kong in the 1960s. Our goal was to humanize and depoliticize stories of migration. Our book spotlights brave individuals who for various reasons were forced to flee their homes.
Each double page starts with a verb that focuses on a different method of escape. Cling, dart, defy, disguise, flee, fly, pedal, raft, sprint, stowaway, swim, and tunnel.
We will take you through 3 of our favorite stories.
We picked out this one particularly for the Edinburgh Book Festival since it was inspired by my visit to Skye a few years ago, where I went to the Armadale Castle where Flora MacDonald was married. She's credited with helping Bonnie Prince Charles disguise himself and try to escape. There at Armadale Castle, I saw one of the costumes. Disguise. Dress like a lady, act like a lady, pretend. Concealing one's identity through disguise to remain undetected is an old trick. One of Scotland's most legendary escapes involved Prince Charles Edward Stuart, also known as Bonnie Prince Charlie. In 1745, when Protestants and Catholics fought over who would rule Scotland and England, Bonnie Prince Charlie mounted an unsuccessful attempt to capture the throne. He then spent 5 months in Scotland as a hunted man. To resist capture, he disguised himself as a lady's maid named Betty Burke, wearing stockings, garters, a calico gown, a quilted petticoat, and a large hood to hide his face. For the rest of his life, he moved around Europe in various disguises to evade capture.
Another more contemporary story is based on my colleague, Laura Alvarez. Here's her story. Dart. Will they see me? Will they hear me? Will I make it? 21-year-old Laura Alvarez huddled near the U.S.-Mexico border, evading the United States Border Patrol. She had given her life savings to a coyote, a smuggler, to help her leave her small town in Mexico, where violent gangs dominated daily life and jobs were scarce. Believing in the promise of a better life on the other side of the border, she left her family behind and crossed mountains and a highway by foot. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Mexico and Central America have risked their lives crossing into New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, or California. Laura made it to Los Angeles, where she was able to work hard as a property manager and raise 2 fine sons.
The third story of escape we'd like to share with you is Cling. This is about 2 sisters. Cling, don't let go, hold tight, never give up. Fleeing the war-torn city of Damascus in Syria, 2 sisters, Yusra and Sarah Mardini, climbed into an overloaded dinghy in Turkey that was heading for Greece. Not far from a Greek island, the boat's engine died. The 2 girls jumped into the choppy waters to stop the boat from capsizing. The sisters clung on for hours, shivering with cold, helping direct the dinghy. A larger boat filled with refugees sped past but ignored their cries for help, as did Coast Guard patrols. The boat's engine eventually sputtered to life and they reached the shore. They made it to Germany, where Yusra competed in the 2016 Rio Summer Olympic Games as a swimmer for the refugee Olympic team. Like the sisters, millions of Syrians have been displaced since the Syrian civil war started in 2011.
These true life stories span the world and different time periods, showing migration has been part of human history and part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We hope you enjoy our stories.
Hello everyone, I am Carmen Vela and I'm the illustrator for Escape, One Day We Had to Run. And I'm especially excited because I'm sharing today with you my first picture book. I'm joining you today from a location in southern Spain, Sevilla, where my actual working studio is, and until very recently I've been sharing time between this location and a place in Brooklyn. However, today from Sevilla, sunny and very hot, I would like to take you on a deeper dive of how I approach creating the artwork for this book, how I think through my illustration work in general. Now, each double page spread, of which there are 12 in Escape, had to encapsulate its entire world and tell the individual story. These are 12 stories set in a completely different place and time. They all have very unique scenery. So when coming up with the visuals, there were some elements that I wanted to bring in that could naturally connect them, regardless of the different locations and different times in history. So these are what we were calling thematic motifs. So these are 12 stories under the same moon, the same sun, the same stars, the same ocean. And these natural elements all take place in different shapes and forms, but they are there somehow throughout the different stories of the book. The sense of night and day, darkness or light, and how these affect the particular actions of the stories. Those are also common points of reference visually for the book. Stowaway, which tells the story of the Underground Railroad from south to north in the United States. So here, the intention here is to capture the need for hiding and secrecy. So I picked palettes of night and time and darkness, in contrast to other stories that I'm going to point out now. So something very different will be the way that light takes place in this story, for example, Raft, which takes place in the waters between Cuba and Florida. So the sun, the heat, and the turquoise sea wraps around the entire action of the story. Apart from the obvious importance of colors, I wanted to be very specific and purposeful about picking textures behind each story. So to represent going from a place of danger and urgency to a calmer, safer place. Let's look closely now at the verb pedal. Pedal is one of the 12 verbs that take place in Escape. So in Pedal, the story of Hans and Margaret Ray, the children's book creators of Curious George, were forced to flee Paris during World War II as Nazis invaded France. It takes place across this spread. I wanted to communicate the sense of movement and the long journey, so I included across 2 pages the different landscape scenes, the mountains, the hills, the roads, and I also drew the different transportation that the readers had to take. Planes, trains, boats. This spread has also somehow the spirit of adventure in it. In this story, our characters, Margaret and Hans, were coming from a dangerous, life-threatening place. This is included in the left side, the picture of the German bomber planes. And then through a long and difficult journey, they aim to a better place. They finally reached the US, where they managed to publish their best-selling children's series, Curious George, who we can see here. So talking about graphic textures in Escape, the way that I started working on it was once that I decided that was going to be part of the visual palette of the book, I started developing tons of these sorts of pages. It's like graphic marks with different rhythms and energy and texture qualities. It's like this one. And many of these ones that I developed tons, I selected and saw how these could represent some of the emotions, some of the energy that these stories require, some of the actual stories, like the one on Defy. We can see textures behind the words, titles. For example, this one on a sprint, which we can see that is scribbled. And these are also some of the key elements that throughout Escape, even though they are geometrical and very graphic, but they are full of emotions and energy that communicate well some of the intentions behind these stories. Next, I would like to talk about another important element. This is how I chose perspective across the different stories of Escape. For example, I'm gonna show Defy, which is a story in which I use perspective not to highlight the journey, but to highlight a close look into an action. So in this story is showing a man holding a pen seated at his desk. Really, with the simple stroke of a pen, this man saved thousands of lives by signing valuable visas. This act was life-threatening for the brave man. It was simple to do the right thing during a terrible time. And using this perspective, really, we highlight that the key action, the main importance here was to this happening on the paper. Obviously, on the other side, we can see the people that actually had to escape at these horrible times.
I'm sitting here with Laura Alvarez, who is my colleague and also the protagonist for one of our stories in Escape, Dart. Will they see me? Will they hear me? Will I make it? Laura's here today to share a little bit about her story and background.
Hi, my name is Laura Alvarez. I work with WA here in Los Angeles. When Ming and WA asked me to be part of their book, Escape. I was not only flattered, I was very surprised. And I had not fully reflected on my life story, my life journey here in Los Angeles, in United States, I should say. Well, I was only 21 when I decided it was time for me to leave my hometown because there's no future. I come from Mexico, a small town in Veracruz, and there's no future. There's violence, there is all this corruption going on. So I knew that it was a promise for a better life and safe life outside my hometown. So I had nothing. I brought nothing when I crossed the border. I was able to make it to Los Angeles.
So now, when you see the newspapers and the news media and the TV stories and the pictures of all the migrants coming from Mexico to Central America, trying to cross the border through California, Texas, Arizona, and get to the United States, what goes through your mind? How do you feel?
When I see the news and see all these people, these migrants coming, it hurts me. It makes me very sad that after so many years, the problems still continue. You know, the corruption, the violence, the poverty. They're pushing those families to leave their homes, just like I did. It really hurts.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. Ming, Carmen Vela, our wonderful illustrator, and I wanted a part of Escape to not only show historic movements, but also to really highlight incredible individuals like Laura, and to show how productive and amazing people who have been forced to make difficult decisions of leaving their home are. We hope you enjoyed the book.